So we're on again. Um, Welcome to GTV. We're going to have a quick look through an article that I just found in the news the other day. Oh, before I forget, it's the 9th of June. It's Thursday, and it's 11:30, just before lunch. Um, so I found this article. The title is "They're Taller, Better Fed, and have fewer fillings. So why are today's children less healthy than 50 years ago?" Now, if you can hear noise in the background, it's the kettle boiling for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. That's what's going on. Just ignore it. Um, anyway, so I wanted to read this article and maybe pick up some information about a comparison of life just after the Second World War in Britain and life as it is now, and how health has affected the development of young people, more specifically children in school, in terms of physical development and mental development. We tend to have this automatic belief that society is moving forward because time seems to be moving forward, that we are advancing in one single direction as a group. Excuse me for a moment. I'm just going to stop this computer because it's all flashing. So we tend to think that we're always advancing and progressing, but I'd like to look at the fact that maybe that's just an illusion from information and the way that information is presented to us through the media. So that's a little introduction. So I thought this was going to be a nice little comparative article, but what I've done is picked out a few things from the article that I think show bias towards a specific point. So let's just have a look at it. It's by Anna Hotchkiss, and I think it's taken from the Daily Mail. I'll put a link up afterwards anyway. So it begins, "There is little doubt that over the past 50 years or so, children have got heavier." Look at the way it begins. There is little doubt that. Now, there's a common phrase used to assume a truth without actually presenting any factual information there. So what that's saying is, oh, you know it's true, and I know it's true, so there can be absolutely no doubt from anyone's perspective that that this information should be argued with. And this goes for the whole article. But it's the way the language is used to suggest something without actually really presenting any factual information that's quite important. "Many of these changes have been good for children's health," meaning the changes over the last 50 years, says Professor Bernard Harris, professor of the history of social policy at Southampton University. What's a professor in the history of social policy describing children's health? There's another question that you need to ask yourself as you read through this. Is children's health a social policy? And if it is, why is it like that? Of course, there are obvious economic reasons, but we have to question about why certain people are involved in these areas. Obviously, he's involved because he gets paid for it. But anyway, then and now, and I'm skipping lines in the article. If you want to read the original article, I'll put up the link. But it's too long. We don't have time to go through it all. Then and now, boys 50 years ago were smaller in height and weight and had higher fitness levels than today's youth. 50 years ago, children were fitter, and as research published last month showed, even 10 years ago, they were also much stronger. So even though we have children who are taller, who are physically, in essence, bigger, they're not in any way healthier because of this. Fitness levels have dropped, and you have to wonder if society is being designed, then is this part of the plan? And if yes, then why? Of course, the answer might be no. Each person has to do their own research on this. The first element that's looked at in the article is height. Then, in the past, 50 years ago, average height 4 feet 4 inches. Now 4 feet 7 inches. The average child's height has increased by between 1 to 3 centimeters every decade over the last 50 years. 3 centimeters in a decade. Wouldn't that suggest that there'd be a huge difference? Anyway, it says Professor Mitch Blair, Officer for Health Promotion at the Royal College. Interesting. The main reason is improved nutrition, particularly during pregnancy, and a better intake of vitamins and minerals. Look at that. A better intake of vitamins and minerals is the main reason for an increase in height. Yet the European Union has just, through Codex Alimentarius, put a limitation, essentially a ban on natural products, including minerals and vitamins that exist within nature. Criminals, but that's a side point. But that just shows you how ridiculous it is. It's also possible that the decline in women smoking during pregnancy, which may stunt the baby's growth, has also contributed. Conjecture, and ignore that. Professor Gavin Sandercock, that's his real name, a child fitness expert at Essex University, there's a job. Isn't it amazing the kind of jobs that people have in the modern world? You would think that when you were at school that some careers advisor was going to say to you, hey, you really ought to be a child fitness expert because you're a child and you're fit, and there you go, there's the qualifications, thank you very much. It's all ridiculous. Anyway, we were never designed to be, this is what he says, quote, we were never designed to be upright, but evolved to walk on all fours, which is why so many of us suffer from back problems. I'll read that again. We were never designed to be upright, but evolved to walk on all fours, which is why so many of us suffer from back problems. So this is saying, if you have a back problem, it's because you're an animal. You should be down on all fours, crawling around outside on the grass or in a field or in a forest somewhere. This man should be taken and locked up, obviously. Keep my comments to myself. I apologize. This is why more people have back pains at a younger age. Nothing to do with uncomfortable chairs at school, nothing to do with sitting in front of computers or sitting on couches, watching televisions, and nothing to do with this sedentary lifestyle, sitting in cars, sitting on buses. It's all because you should be an animal and you should be down on all fours anyway. Right. Next, weight. 50 years ago, boys were on average 5 stone 10 pounds. Now they're on average 6 stone 4 pounds. There's a similar increase in weight for girls as well, slightly less, but still an increase. As children have got taller, they've also got heavier because they have more muscle bulk. However, many are heavier than they should be, and that's because of inactivity. Quite right. Girls are also taller and heavier than their predecessors and reach puberty earlier. Now, there's a key point that's coming through here. It's not really focused on, but you've got to ask, what is it about society that is causing girls to reach puberty earlier? We've got to look at what's changed in the last 40 or 50 years, essentially. I mean, we've had increased health and nutrition and vitamins, as I said, but is that causing girls to reach puberty earlier? I mean, what specifically for the girls? I mean, think about I would point you in the direction of the toxics and toxic chemicals and the toxins that exist within the food, and maybe also in vaccinations as well. But that's a subject for another day. I'm sure we'll cover that. The amount of food children have been eating has decreased over the years, but they're eating more fat and sugar and more genetically modified foods, and add that in. And their levels of inactivity have shot up with the rise of cars, TVs, remote controls. Everyone is doing less than they used to. I mean, he's talking about less in terms of activity, not less in terms of work, because I think we're all working more than we used to. So there's a psychological point. And so on. Let's look at the next one. There is much talk about an obesity epidemic. In fact, children's body mass index has changed little. Goes on to list statistics. I'm not going to look at that too much. But Mr. Sandercock says children from more affluent areas are less likely to have seen a change. So if you were well off in the past, you're probably still well off in the present, probably because their parents are more focused on nutrition and exercise. Interestingly, pointing out the fact that the parents are responsible for this, because they have responsibility, and this is a good fact, it's a good point that the parents need to think about this. My phone's going off, so I'm just going to stick it over here, never a moment's peace. Oh, where are we? Moving on through the article. The number of malnourished children is also rising. So even though we have more food, because we've got more SHIT in the food, we're basically not getting the nutrition that we need, which is also ridiculous, because you would think with an organized society, the point of organization would be to make sure that people get the nutrition that they need so that they get the health that they need. But it doesn't seem to be working like that. Anyway, it's my favorite word today. Anyway, back to the main point. It's not just skinny children, it's possible for an obese child to be malnourished because while they get plenty of calories from chips and chicken nuggets, they don't get sufficient vitamins. It's not difficult, just have to focus on what you're doing. We have diagnosed 14-year-old children with type 2 diabetes, something we didn't see 20 years ago, because it was a disease associated with older age societies changing. Think about why is it changing, what's happening to the environment that's causing this change. Also in relation to bad health, we see a lot of overweight children with high blood pressure, and Britain already has one of the highest rates of heart disease. It's the country's biggest killer. Now there's many points you can look at. You can look at diet, you can look at the lifestyle. You can also look at the human physiology. You can look at why things are attacking the heart in the body. And childhood obesity means that it's only likely to rise. Who is going to look after all these people in the future? Oh my God, it's going to be a terrible problem, all these people getting old and sick. Well, just perhaps education should focus a little bit on true health issues, Talking about reaching puberty, 50 years ago, boys reached it at 14 and a half. Now they reach it 13 and a half. Girls reached it at 12 and a half. They now reach it at 11. So it's dropped at least a year and a half. This age for girls dropped suddenly in those born in the late 80s and 90s, particularly among girls from poor backgrounds who had probably been vaccinated, I would add. It is estimated also that at least 1 in 6 children under the age of 10 is experiencing puberty. 1 in 6 children is shocking. One of the suggestions as a reason for this is an unhealthy lifestyle or exposure to chemicals in food, and so on. Breast cancer rates have gone up, risen by 50% in the last 25 years. We could go on to teeth, dental problems, fluoride, other elements. We don't have time. I'll post the articles for worth reading. Thanks. Bye.